Funding for Off 90 is provided in part by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund and the citizens of Minnesota.
Cruising your way on this episode of Off 90. We meet the producers of an internet series about art and culture in Rochester. Come with us to an outdoor market of arts and crafts in Northfield. Learn about a program that helps develop the writing skills of prison inmates. And take a ride in a parade of a different kind in Austin. It's all just ahead, Off 90. Hi, I'm Barbara Keith. Thanks for joining me on this episode of Off 90. The Local Experiment is the name of an internet series produced in Rochester. The producers track down stories they feel are significant contributors to the arts and culture of southeastern Minnesota. Chelsea and her crew conduct interviews with painters, brewers, and politicians. We caught up with the Local Experiment to talk to them about their program.
We are bringing our community together one episode at a time.
Somebody should do a slate.
Yeah.
Got it.
I am Chelsea Jean, executive producer and host.
I am Tyler Ogg, director, editor, camera dude. Yeah.
Maybe? Question mark.
Camera dude. Nate Bisping. I am the photographer slash baby wrangler slash prop master.
So I kind of need a wooden bow tie now.
The Local Experiment is a web series on weekly for the most part, just about whatever it is we feel like making an episode about that week. Interviews, profiles on local artists and musicians and businesses and events and yeah.
Interesting characters, cool businesses doing cool things.
Yeah.
Little projects going on in town. You know, just kind of micro things that don't make the paper or the local news or, you know.
You can find us on YouTube. Please subscribe.
No, that wasn't right.
There. How do you like that?
We just started the show. She's getting it.
I was like...
She's nervous. She hasn't been in front of camera.
No, I've never been in front of the camera. No, they don't. Trust me, I know.
It's a web series. The web series is just a TV show on the internet.
But not a sitcom web series, which
Yeah.
most web series kind of are. Or a video game web series.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, The Local Experiment is a web series, which is basically taking what you would watch on the old television tube and bringing that format into the intranet, where you actually have a lot more control over things and you can actually reach a lot more people when you think about it. So it's the same difference, just in the internet.
We don't have the constraints of it has to be 10 minutes or 15 minutes or an
Yeah.
hour or half an hour. It can be however long we want it to be.
You can find us on YouTube, The Local Experiment. We definitely love it if you subscribe, because then what is nice is it comes right into your email every week and you don't have to try to find it through all the other chaos of social media. Yeah, what it meant to me was we didn't really know what we were doing. All we knew is that I knew I wanted to interview people and kind of create something different happening in my town that I grew up in that for the most part felt lame as a teenager. So I wanted to change that, and in a sense, experiment felt appropriate because that's exactly what it is and was and continues to be, because it's always transforming itself. And then that really doesn't pigeonhole us in anything. So it's like we can really make it whatever we want. And local is really wherever you are. I mean, local can be Rochester to Minnesota to maybe there'll be a local experiment in, you know, San Diego. I don't know. Just for instance, so it really doesn't make us feel like we're trapped in anything necessarily.
I think she's got it.
Find different ways, different people that we could interview and how we can interview them and make it new and interesting, and figuring out the locations and the time and all those types of things.
This is kind of where the episode started, was, you know, on the couch, and sometimes we'd like to bring it back.
And a lot of things in terms of what he does in like the directing and editing happens like in the moment, because it's guerrilla style and you can't really, you know, we don't have time to go and scout our space before we get there to then pre-decide how it's going to be. So it's like in the moment we have to fly off the cuff. I mean, you know.
And sometimes the hardest part with just guerrilla or just quick and done is, I think sometimes the continuity gets lost when you're doing cuts and trying to make it interesting with one camera, and so that comes down the editing room floor too.
That's part of the creativity of it all.
It's not the editor. I mean, it's not the editing software. It's not the camera.
Yeah.
It's the people behind it, you know.
Yep.
I think for me, it's like, it's almost like effortless at this point. Like, obviously I'm not hosting and I'm not shooting and editing it, but we go to an event or we go and film something or whatever that day, and it feels like we're messing around, hanging out with our friends, like having fun, and then it's like, oops, we actually filmed an episode while we were doing that.
Still being productive.
Well, still being productive.
Accidentally.
Yeah. And so it's what we like doing, and we're doing it in like a super casual manner on our own time and our own like standards. Like, we're setting, you know, the pace for ourselves about what we want out of it. Yeah. And, you know, when it's crunch time, we like get professional and everyone's quiet and we film, and did we get the shot? Do we need this? Do we need someone to hold a cord or do this or whatever? But for the most part, it's pretty just fly by the seat of our pants, just doing it.
It's the greatest excuse to just go out and meet some of the coolest people. It's like, in just that little adventure, like, and it gives us this reason to just go meet and find cool people, or a reason to do that. And
we are bringing our community together one episode at a time.
Definitely.
On Saturdays in the summertime, you can stroll through the Riverwalk Market Fair on the banks of the Cannon River, which rolls through downtown Northfield. Each Saturday features a different combination of organic and sustainably grown produce from local farmers and a juried selection of the region's top art and fine crafts. It's a one-of-a-kind European market located in southern Minnesota.
Riverwalk Market Fair is something like, well, why wouldn't you have a market by the river? I am on the board of directors of Riverwalk Market Fair, and I'm a resident of Northfield. I've lived here about 18 years, and I'm a management consultant, and I've been working with Riverwalk Market Fair since the beginning. At the beginning, in 2009, we were looking for opportunities to create more of an arts culture here in Minnesota. We have a lot of artists here. We have students that stay here and do their art, a lot of residents here who are artists. And we wanted to have a venue for them to be able to show their work and be able to develop a following and hopefully develop as full-time artists. We also had another asset in town, which were the farmers. We have a lot of organic farmers and flower growers within a very short distance of Northfield. And then we also have food artisans. So we have bakers and pastry makers and jelly makers and all those kinds of people. But those were the individuals that we really wanted to give a venue to. And they're entrepreneurs, so they're trying to have a place where they can sell their wares. But we also had another asset that we wanted to leverage, which was the waterfront here in Northfield. We have the Cannon River runs through our town, and we have a beautiful riverfront. And so we called it Riverwalk Market Fair.
My name is Kathy Miller. I'm a watercolor artist. I live in Northfield, Minnesota. I've been a part of the festival since the onset. My art is very regional, it's very local scenes, in the landscapes in particular. I have a passion for nature. I'm an emerging artist. I started painting only 7 years ago, and so I was looking for a way to get my work out to the public, and this seemed like a natural fit. The goal was for it to become a very regional destination, a happening for people to come for a day.
So it's really a blend, and I think that's what makes it unique. The other thing that's unique about it is it goes every Saturday from the beginning of June until the end of October. So this year it's 20 Saturdays from 9 to 1 p.m. and rain or shine. We have now been part of the fabric of Northfield, I think, this is a tradition where people come down, they get a pastry, they meet their neighbors. And then we have all the people that come from the Twin Cities and outside the area. People are sort of glassy-eyed, they walk around and go, wow, what a really beautiful town. Benefit to Northfield has been on a couple of levels. One is we advertise in the metro media, magazines, newspapers, about Riverwalk Market Fair, which is kind of an entree for people who are curious about Northfield, because Northfield has kind of a reputation as being kind of a cool place, and so they want to come and check it out on their own, or they might know someone who lives here, so there's a reason for them to come to visit. And then when they come, they spend money. And so last year, according to our figures, $180,000 in revenue was generated as a result of visitors who came here specifically for Riverwalk Market Fair. And so we have a real partnership with downtown. They like us because we bring a lot of energy and customers, and we love them because we're in a great environment that really supports us. We're kind of a meeting place now, so we see neighbors talking to neighbors, sitting on the benches around the park, talking about catching up on the latest gossip. We have college kids who come down as well on a Saturday to get their pastries and to hang out. But there's just an energy here of local people who take a lot of pride in the riverfront and being here, and it's become, you know, kind of the fabric of our life now.
In 1994, Congress ended a notable federal effort to support higher education behind bars. Inmates of state and federal prisons became ineligible for Pell Grants through a provision of the 1994 Omnibus Crime Bill that was signed into law. The Minnesota Prison Writing Workshop extends Minnesota's vibrant literary community to state prisons, giving inmates a chance to develop their writing skills.
One of these days I'm gonna be free, and one of these days I'm gonna see the sea, and one of these days I'm gonna feel the breeze. Without these
The first
day that I taught, I had 12 men. On the drive out, I practiced a few phrases that were direct and stern that I would use in case things got out of control or in case people were disrespectful. I very instantly realized none of that was going to be necessary because the men that showed up introduced themselves to me. They sat at the edge of their seat. They were eager. And I realized as a woman who never grew up with her dad that I was dealing with you know, just some of our very basic human wounds. That's what writing addresses. And I knew in that moment that probably I would not want to teach anywhere else. And I knew that it was probably going to take over a big part of my life because there was a vulnerability and an enthusiasm in that classroom that is really rare to find on the outside.
I think that one of the paradoxes that I found, at least, was that students would be, you know, they'd be really, you know, eager to take the class, but they would also have this sort of like extreme, like crisis of confidence, like in their own abilities. Prison is all about cultivating sort of, you know, a facade and like, you know, a bulletproof exterior. And writing is all about sort of like cracking yourself open and becoming vulnerable. And there's a guy in my most recent class who said, I'd always thought of my heart as this black, burned, shriveled. But he said the experience of writing has made me feel like I can sort of like flake off parts of the black here and there and see kind of the red beating heart underneath. I would think that you would want to do everything possible if people were in prison to keep them from ever coming back to prison if they're getting out, you know? And, you know, to do that, you have to put tools in their hands. One thing that I was really pleasantly surprised by was just how enthusiastic the Department of Corrections was to work with us in the first place. And all of the, you know, like the education directors that we've been working with have been really, really supportive, and they understand the value of what's going on, and they want to make it so that it can continue.
They develop their own little cohesive unit because they feel safe. And that safety net pretty much stays there once they're done because they have shared some things with in many cases, they've never shared with anyone else. And so that ability to sustain a relationship like that is no different than you or I. It really isn't. You know, they really have that same sort of need to want to connect at that level. And they have been able to take this and transfer their learning to make more positive relationships with their families on the outside, their children on the outside. They know how to express themselves more because they're taught how to bring that forth. And so it really has quite an effect, not only on them in their lives while they're on the inside, but also what they can do to develop and maintain relationships when they get on the outside as well, with their children and their families.
I can philosophically say, yes, if I were the victim or the victim's mother, I would want to know, why do any of these people deserve attention, teaching, love, investment? That's the philosophical side. But when I'm teaching in the classroom, I'm teaching an actual man, not an abstract man, an actual man whose story I know well because he's been telling it to me over the course of many months. I can only say that I hope, if I'm ever a victim myself, that I will recognize that this is a paradox that we can't escape, that you can be a person who has done an awful thing, who is also capable of love and curiosity and compassion and redemption, and to access all of those things, we have to give them, is something really important. And I don't fully understand it, but I feel like it's a crucial and really significant piece of this work that we're doing.
Looking out through the bars of my cell, I scan my surroundings and contemplate my future. My freedom is gone, and life as I know it is over. I think about my family and the holidays we'll never again share. I think about Melinda and the love we'll never again make. I think about the children I'll never father, the life experiences I'll never have, and the milestones I'll never achieve. I move to the back of my cell in case I start to cry. I don't want anyone to see. I don't know what else to do, so I turn to the only thing I know, and the only thing I have.
The second that I teach you how to read and write, you can express that you want to change your life. And just the vociferation of that, just saying that out loud to your loved one or to your daughter or to your son, mijito, mijita, I want to change my life. Boom! Between you and the loved one, you've just given birth to a dream. You couldn't say that without reading and writing. There is no birth of a dream. There's this constant growing of this frustration in your body that you want to say stuff to the world, that you want them to know that you exist. And without language, you'll never be able to tell them that. And that's the worst fate ever. The worst fate is to not be able to express yourself. It's the worst.
You've got language under control, and you are smart and have a very strong voice. If I'm not mistaken, you observe and understand subtle human behavior astutely. That's one of the most important things a writer can do. Watch others with as much understanding and compassion as you can. Then write down what you see. Turn that same observant eye as often as possible on yourself. You've gotten braver and braver about what you're willing to explore. You have a unique story to tell. Explore it with openness, honesty, curiosity, and fearlessness. Keep writing about those blind, dark, unexplored spots, and your work will grow even more poignant and powerful. You have something to say and the talent to say it well.
The Professional Car Society is a group of professional car enthusiasts dedicated to the restoration and preservation of professional vehicles, such as ambulances, hearses, and limousines. A procession of these vehicles made their way through Austin. We talked to the organizers about their unique and historically important hobby.
The reaction we get when we take these cars out in public is really something to be enjoyed. Most people are curious naturally as to what the cars are. They're in awe by their size and just the uniqueness of the craftsmanship. I'm Tony Karsnia, president of the Professional Car Society, which was formed in 1976. It's an international organization dedicated to the restoration, maintenance, and preservation of professional cars, which loosely defined are classic hearses, ambulances, limousines, flower cars, and related rescue, funeral, and livery vehicles. We have approximately 30 cars in our procession today. The Professional Car Society is made up of approximately 1,200 members. Every year the meet is located in a different location, and this year we're based in Rochester, Minnesota. The professional car is a very unique vehicle in that each one of them was custom built. There is intricate craftsmanship in each of these vehicles, and I would challenge you to find two of them, especially of the classic era, that are exactly alike. Professional cars through 1984 were built on what was called a coach builder chassis, and that means that the front clip and the chassis of the car was sent from a manufacturer, specifically Cadillac in most cases. And at that point, they custom made their own doors, glass, roof panels, and then did the interiors so that the end result was either a hearse, ambulance, combination car, flower car. We're not about modifying the vehicles, we're about preserving them as stock vehicles sensitive to the purposes for which they were built. As the generations change, they need to keep in mind what came before them. I personally started collecting professional cars when I was 14 years old because I grew up around a funeral home in a small town, and my dad also operated an ambulance for the local ambulance service. And so when I was a young child, I spent a lot of time around these cars, not only riding in them, but helping to maintain them. And I've always been interested in them. One of my favorite things about collecting classic cars is being able to get them out on a nice 2-lane country road and just take a nice easy cruise. And we thought, what a better way than to take the trip down through the countryside from Rochester to Austin.
That's all for this episode. Please help Off 90 meet its financial obligations by becoming a member of KSMQ Public Television. Give us a call at 507-481-2095 or 1-800-658-2539, or sign up online at ksmq.org. Thanks for watching. Join us next time, Off 90.
Funding for Off 90 is provided in part by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund and the citizens of Minnesota.